Welcome to the She Births podcast, a place for conversations to help you create a beautiful birth and grow gently through the powerful time of motherhood, or as we call it now, matrescence. We are not just birthing our babies, remember, but also ourselves. I am Nadine Richardson, your host and creator of the world's first scientifically verified childbirth education program, She Births. I have been a yoga teacher, doula, and birth educator for over 20 years, and I started to create She Births after my own wild and wonderful birth experience. Today, I am proud to say that She Births has helped tens of thousands of families around the world, and we are published in the British Medical Journal. Our programs have a unique holistic toolkit, mindset skills, and philosophy that all work together so that you can have the most natural, gentle, and joyous birth possible and make birth beautiful no matter what unfolds. I will be talking with fellow experts around the world so that you can feel empowered and critically be engaged in decision making. There are lots of birth stories from mums just like you, sharing their challenges and joys. We will be hearing from mums and celebrating the extraordinary growth that happens during motherhood, that unravelling rite of passage that leads us to finding a new self on the other side. Our world-class birth courses can be learnt either face-to-face or online inside our free app. Just jump onto the She Births website, shebirths.com, and take a look. We have lots of freebies for you if you feel like learning more. We have a doula matching service, the perfect way to ensure you and your partner are supported, our Matrescence program, and our 14-year-strong Soul Mama Circles, the perfect initiation and support into motherhood and sisterhood. Our vision at She Births is to make birth beautiful for every family around the world. So if you like what you hear today, please help us to keep this podcast going by subscribing, reviewing, and sharing with a friend. I hope you enjoy this special episode. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 4 of the She Births podcast. Today I talk with She Births mum and opera singer Emily Edmonds. Emily is a mezzo-soprano who has worked extensively overseas. She's sought out for her interpretations of both contemporary and traditional work. She has worked with the Royal Ballet and Opera, Komische Oper Berlin, Opera Philadelphia, and this year she is making an exciting Opera Australia debut in the role of Cinderella. I just can't wait to go and see it this summer in Sydney. Our conversation touches on the raw, transformative, and often uncomfortable experiences of matrescence and how we enter that portal of change from maiden to mother even before we conceive. We talk about how matrescence can encompass an entire identity shift. Emily shares how her birth was powerful, connecting her to nature. And we discuss how women have been gaslit and often underestimate their capacity to handle the challenges of motherhood. The journey of motherhood is unique for each individual, shaped by personal experiences. There's actually a gift, I think, in juggling work and motherhood, and a reciprocal enrichment, I've found. It's so important, though, to discuss the taboos and truths about motherhood. So together we chat about experiencing a miscarriage before her birth, great challenges in postpartum with feeding, how creative expression can even flourish through motherhood, and creative identity can be intertwined with motherhood. We talk about sensuality and desire, communication with partners, finding your voice in postpartum, how motherhood is a season and each moment is temporary, letting go of the idea of bouncing back with our careers, not just our bodies, and the process of becoming less afraid, which is a vital gift in motherhood. Stay tuned to the very end when we summarize for both birth and matrescence the taboos and truths into just 3 words each. Words that I hope will stay with you and offer you the hope and power for whatever you need in your own process. Remember that you can join a Soul Mama Circle, which is a deep exploration and container for matrescence, and of course a She Births course to prepare for your beautiful birth, either online or face-to-face via the shebirths.com website. I hope you enjoy. Welcome, Emily Edmonds, to the She Births podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Don't go all shy on us. You're like an opera singer. You're a really famous opera singer.
I was waiting to see people like, welcome, today we're, and then I'm like, oh, that's me.
No, that's you. I'll record the bio later and the intro later.
Love it.
Thank you, darling. Well, I'm super excited that you're here because, oh gosh, I think I met you, I suppose like 3 years ago, even though you were doing the online course. How did we meet? How did you even come to She Births?
So I think a friend had recommended the birth course, but I was in the pandemic. I was pregnant. So I found the online course and I was like, that's going to be perfect. And me and my partner would kind of like sit down every Saturday morning and do our little, module or whatever. And then I, post-birth, joined a Soul Mama Circle, which was incredible. And I don't know, I think it was you that I emailed and I was like, I was signed up for the online one, but then it got shifted like into the in-person one. And so like, oh, my baby's like not even 6 weeks old, like maybe I'm not sure if I can come in person. And it was a really big deal and she hated the car. And I just remember, I think it was you writing to me saying like, you can do it. Come on, go. And it was like just the like burst that I needed to go and be part of this amazing circle.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to do those things, to leave the house, like with a newborn.
So much courage. Yeah.
So much courage. Well, and I suppose, it's really hard to do a podcast with you about motherhood without talking about your birth, but we're not going to dive into your extraordinary birth experience because we might save that for somewhere else, like the book or like, who knows, in other places, other ideas that you and I have gestating. But maybe you could give everyone a little overview of what your pregnancy journey was like and your birth. Hit us.
Well, pregnancy was immense. Like I often think of like even the moment where actually, I guess some people don't necessarily decide to conceive, but for me, it was like a really kind of conscious decision. That's what we wanted to do. And we started trying. Like I feel that one enters the motherhood portal so much earlier than being pregnant, and you start being transformed by it in ways that you don't necessarily know, want, expect, hope for. And for me, that looked like a kind of a challenging few months. And then we first conceived and then experienced a really traumatic miscarriage. And so my heart is with anyone who's experiencing that because it was really, really grueling, and I really wasn't prepared for what the reality of that for my body at that time would be. And without getting too kind of like emotional and painful up front, just for anyone going through that, like the pain of that experience for me was probably worse than childbirth. It was really extreme and I really wasn't mentally, emotionally prepared for that. So that kind of echoed with me for a long time and really shifted my body and my spirit. And I remember just thinking at the time, like, what do I call myself, a mother now? Because I've already been changed by this little being inside me. And what am I? And even when people say to me, oh, is it your first child? I kind of say yes. And then I have this moment in my mind where I think, oh, that is it? Like, when do I define myself becoming a mother? So I think it's like it speaks to that idea of like you're inside the motherhood portal for a long time before you actually, whatever you might be pregnant or you might carry a pregnancy to term, or, I just think the motherhood portal is so much more expansive than we might traditionally conceive of it.
Which I think,
yeah.
Can I just say, sorry for dogs barking and jingle jangling in the background. I think, that's why we're having this conversation. Like what you're basically saying even in that is a heads up, people. Like motherhood begins really before you conceive and before pregnancy, and whether you have a miscarriage or not. You're right. The portal is open because, on one level, the soul is coming in and choosing, and that almost awakens, I believe, the desire in our hearts to carry to birth. That's what been my experience. But that longing, it's the longing to be the mother that starts building at certain points, and that longing in itself and that wanting to manifest is the portal absolutely potentially beginning,
That's really beautiful. And I love that idea of like the longing to manifest. It's like, because it feels, and we'll get into it, but like pregnancy for me felt like the biggest act of creativity. And it feels like we're kind of like opening ourselves up to that creativity or creative life force or whatever you want to call it. And when we open ourselves up, we're opening ourselves up to being changed by that experience. And I think that's the motherhood portal, and for me, it sort of started like that. And, I was then very shifted by that experience. It was the thing that kind of got me to go and see an amazing therapist really regularly. And I feel like it was like this idea of I just needed to be like cleared out. I needed to be seeing that therapist. My body was going through these things. I found out that I'd had undiagnosed endometriosis for like 20 years of menstruating.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, like, what do you mean? Like I've been gaslit for 20 years. Anyway, that's all the story.
Yep.
But it's, right. So it was like this whole experience, even before falling pregnant with my daughter, who's now 2.5. And it was just stepping into that portal. I think like maiden me had this idea that I could have any sense of like kind of control over it. And just being opened up and stepping into that portal is like just putting yourself before whatever you want to call it, like creation or creativity. The
creation, mystery. Yes.
And just saying that. Like, make of me what you will,
Yes, I think you're right. It's stepping into that mystery because in the maiden realms, we are still living a life of simplicity and control. We're living in the upper world, and we haven't yet embraced the paradox, which is what we talk about in the Soul Mama Circle. Like, you're just holding dark and light, man, every day. Like, yes.
I love that. That's exactly it, because it's like you're up on this level and like, cool, I'm going to like do, and I'm proud of the things that I've done in my life, but I'm going to do these things and my career, and this is my identity, and I'm like, awesome, and I know challenge, and like, yeah, absolutely. But like, fuck, the depths of the shadow and the challenge and the transformation and the change, it is like going just deep. And that was kind of, I guess, throughout that pregnancy, it's like I was just thrust deep into that kind of like, for me, it was really like exhausted and nauseous, like so many people's kind of experience are, but it was in the pandemic, it was in lockdowns, it was just this intense time of solitude, often loneliness. I'd kind of moved back from where I'd been living in London for a long time, most of my adult life, and all my kind of jobs as a singer had sort of been annihilated, and it was this kind of really intensely introspective period.
Yeah.
And I think that was so, whilst it has made for a really difficult 4 years in a way, from the kind of start of the pandemic until, my daughter's now 2.5, I think it's really important when we're talking about the matrescence period, for me, that was the background, that it was this intensely introspective period, and there was so many gifts in that, and it really led me into myself and my stuff, and what do I need to let go of, and what do I need to therapize, and what do I need to meditate on, and what do I need to swim in the ocean about. And also it really set up my birth, which for me was an incredible home birth. And part of making that decision was that there was a pandemic. If my partner had been had COVID, he wouldn't have been allowed in, and we really wanted, obviously, to be there. And yeah, it's just I think the most important thing that still stays with me about my birth is that I absolutely held all the power of nature inside my body. And it was like I just had these images of like, and I would say to myself as a mantra during birth, I'm a volcano, I'm a lioness, I'm the lightning. And it just kind of came to me, this idea of like all of the power of nature is moving through me. And it was like the before and after, like a star exploded in my life. And that doesn't mean it was blissful and orgasmic. I didn't have that experience, but I had this experience that I was nature. Like I felt like, I don't have a particular religious belief, but I felt in that moment like the only way I can describe it is that I met God. And it wasn't beautiful and it wasn't orgasmic, but it was like a cracking open. And I just feel like I held all of the power of nature, all of the, like, I just feel like I saw the face of God, you know? And that was the framework for how I kind of like popped out into matrescence, like bloodied and broken on the floor. But like, you know, even as I said bloodied and broken, I was like, oh God, don't say bloodied and broken. Like, but no, like I was bloody. There was blood, there was mess, there was shadow, there was dirt. I remember someone saying to me like, oh, was it so beautiful? Like, did you feel, and I was like, sure, that's a word I would use to describe like a flower. But like what I felt was, that was a part of it. But what I felt was like a fucking thunderstorm. Like, I don't know. I struggle to even find the words now. But yeah, does that make sense? Yeah.
It absolutely makes sense. You know, I think I have read your story and I fucking love it. Put that across. Because it alludes, I mean, and when people read my book, when it comes out, they will read some of the poetry, you know, like that I've written, because I think ultimately it is really hard to capture the power and the magic of our birth stories in just a narrative, in normal language, in constructed sentences. And sometimes poetry kind of captures that essence. And one of the poems that just came out of me one day was, like it's allowing her with a capital H to take you over. You know, you are taken over by the Shakti, right? And so the work that you did in your pregnancy, when you said, I'm emptying out, you know, what comes to me is you just become in that emptying the channel for a new life. And it's about how much space have you made? And some people don't need to make that much space. Maybe they've got a lot of space. Maybe there's a less Shakti that's going to take them over. But some of us are got to make a lot of space, and there's a lot of Shakti that's just going to take you over. And you were one of those people, darling.
I was one of those people. And it's like, it's really interesting, you know, it kind of links to the whole kind of postpartum and matrescence idea. But I remember talking to my beautiful therapist with whom I have a great relationship, and I was like, but like my postpartum, it was not what I wanted. And she was like, yeah, but I think it's what you needed. And I was like, oh, that hurts so good. Like that is so right. And so I'm so mad at you for saying that. And it's so true. And it feels like whether it's our child or their energy or their spirit or like nature or universe or whatever, it's like I think there's a sense of like, hey, I know you can hold this. I know you can hold this. And I didn't know I could hold this.
That's right.
I think that the whole experience has shown and continues to show me like, actually, you can hold the volcano. You can hold the storm. You are the lioness. Like just when you think you can't stretch any further, you smash apart. And I think that's the lesson. And we were saying before we started recording, like, I think that it's almost the lie that we're sold is that, like, don't talk about how hard things can be because, I don't know, like the lie is something like we won't be able to cope or we won't be able to hold it. And I feel like that does women such a disservice because it, like, at the heart of that, we are disconnected from our immense power.
Yeah.
You know, and our ability to keep stretching and expanding and breaking apart and coming back together. Like, where are the temples to us? Like, I know there are so many cultures where that is the case, but, you know, I just think, like, what? Like, I am like the void. I'm the void of creation. I am the portal between existing and not existing. Like, get on your knees. Like, I just.
And people wonder why it's called she births, you know, like,
right.
You know, get on your knees, man, and just like bow down to her. And I think
totally.
That's the partner that comes in, the partner that's ready to bow to their partner and say, you're the goddess, like you are it right now and I will serve you. But then also there's that bowing down on the next level, on the more subtle level, to the Shakti, to the divine, to nature, because that's what's really moving through us all the time. But in these 100%. Intense moments, it's powerful.
And that's what I was going to say. It's like, yes, the bowing down of like, well, society, you should be like, women are amazing. But it's also like the bowing down within oneself.
Yes.
And kind of whether it be like we bow down to ourselves or to that thing that inhabits us. I just think there's like it's a humbling experience because as I said, humbling. Like as a maiden, I thought I was like cool, I'm like awesome, and I've got things like organized and in control, and I had no fucking idea, you know.
Humble is definitely the word that I've also got a poem about that because that's really the key word to describe how I felt after my labor, brought to my knees, humbled, brought to my knees. So we could ramble for more, but matrescence, did you even like know what matrescence was? Because I don't even know if I had it I talk about it in the live courses, but maybe I hadn't updated the online course like 3 years ago. I can't remember. I've got videos for it now in the online course talking about the neuroscience, matrescence. But did you even know what was coming?
I feel like, yes, I'd encountered the idea probably in your course. But it's like, it's the thing that I hated that people said before I had a baby, like, you just won't get it. And it's the excuse people use.
I know, like, it's rude, isn't it? It's so annoying.
But it's arrogant. So true. Like it is, but I'd add nuance to that. It's like people say, I've said to some people like, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, well, what would I have said? And everyone's experience is different. And yes, all those things are true, but it's like, it's part of that, like, the lies that we tell women or people with uteruses. It's like, come the fuck on, guys. Like, we can talk about this. It doesn't mean that you have to know what my challenges are going to be, but we can talk about this as a period. And I think I'd come across the idea, but I didn't really comprehend what it would be.
Well, that's it. It's like you get the birth you need. You get the matrescence process you need, right? And so the reason one of the reasons this podcast is happening is because you put a really cool Instagram post up and explaining about your career and walking in the wilderness and beautiful words. And I said, yes, come on the podcast and talk about matrescence. And what happened for you, Emily?
Oh, my God. So, yes, I'd posted this thing. We can talk more about that, but I sort of had a career wilderness and felt like I was like remembering this part of me that had been kind of out in the wild and journeying, and just this career news had come through. And I promised myself, look, if I get this job, I'm going to be really honest about what this means to me. So big deal. I'd kind of written about it and said, you know, this symbolizes this. And then, yeah, you'd written this comment and said, great, let's get on the podcast and talk about matrescence. And I was like, oh my God, that's what the last 2 years have been. Like, this is what this journey has been. I hadn't even put two and two together. Like, oh, of course, that was part of matrescence. I think I'd like compartmentalized it in my mind to like that really immediate postpartum period, or like, you know, my chemical, emotional stuff in my brain and body. Like, I hadn't really gone like, oh, this is this entire identity shift that comes in seasons. I hadn't, like, when I was deep inside of it, I sort of thought like, maybe this is forever and this is who I am now. And there's more just kind of like, certainly when it comes to career and like who I am as a woman, not just as a mother, I sort of thought maybe all that joy is in my past and the success or the kind of work. And then when it shifted and I was like, wow, there's more to look forward to than there was behind me, it was the first time I thought, oh, there's going to be another chapter and then another chapter, or another season and then another season. And then, yeah, I named it kind of as the matrescence period, only when you were like, oh, great, cool, matrescence. I was like, oh, after all you've taught me, Nadine, and I didn't even notice.
I created Soul Mama Circles, a mother's group with meaning, for mums and bubs to find community, to gain the support they need during matrescence and really enjoy parenthood. As we become mums, we experience intense physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual changes, and a typical counsel group doesn't always cut it. Many of us walk away feeling unseen and alone across the greatest transformation of our lives. A Soul Mama Circle is a month-long program facilitated by myself or a postnatal expert, who is often She Births alumni as well, and a Soul Mama alumni, that includes face-to-face gatherings, an online private community, and valuable resources. Every week we explore the key areas of motherhood and are reminded of the latest neuroscience about your changing brain and hormones and nervous system. We always have guided somatic experiences and some breath work to help you feel calm and connected. You'll also receive downloadable visualizations and PDFs to support you through the journey, plus lifetime access to resources and lifetime connection to your new soul mamas, as many of them continue for years and years and years. Our longest is now 15 years in connection, and all of the children are still friends and holiday together. This expert-led, facilitated program is designed to help you discover the new you that is emerging, to support your family and your key relationships, and teach you the true essence of self-care. To join a circle in your area and begin your journey of growth and connection, just visit the She Birth site and go to our face-to-face learnings, parenting, Soul Mama Circles, or you can type in shebirths.com/mothers-groups. You can follow us on Instagram to watch more of our lives, where we talk more in depth and talk to some of the mums who've had these amazing circles in their lives. Together, She Births is here to support you grow and thrive as mothers with our beautiful Soul Mama Circles. So join us today. But that's it, right? You're still walking the labyrinth. You step into the labyrinth, the threshold is contractions, like labor begins, however it is, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to the center of the labyrinth, and that is meeting your baby. And the walk out of the labyrinth is 2 years. And now we have neuroscience to prove that as of like a month ago. The latest fMRIs, I can't say, Liz Chasturi, two neuroscientists. One was pregnant, and they tracked her brain during pregnancy and then postpartum. And there's such radical brain changes across pregnancy and postpartum, and it really marks off at 2 years quite dramatically. There is in part, return to what we were, but still the brain has been changed and resculpted. It's been pruned.
Yeah.
So there's been a shrinking of the grey matter to move us towards more non-cognitive cues, and there's been an expansion, so less cognitive thinking sort of processes, less frontal lobe activity, more about listening to the sounds of your babies. There's even science to show now that animals can hear their babies crying before we do. So a baby mouse mum, no, but that's kind of like what happens, right, between mums and in bed, right? Mum, you sort of wake up like a few minutes before or whatever. The baby starts crying, but maybe there's a deeper sound that we can actually hear, or a feeling sense. And then that white matter is expanding, and that's the fresh snow dump that I also talk about, that's really critical in the childbirth experience with all the hormones. So this fresh snow dump, this white matter, it's often coming really from prolactin across the whole period of brain change, because it's not just in birth. You can't measure brain change yet in birth, and it's a very short period. So this expansion of white matter is all these fresh areas that want to start firing, and they want to wire up into new pathways, new neural pathways. And that's why it's so important, post-birth and during matrescence and pregnancy, to only have people around you that really nourish the pathways you want. Your neuroplasticity is so expanded. You need to be extremely careful about who's around you, what people say, what you're saying to yourself, and realize that you are learning a shit ton of new skills through motherhood, which is setting you up for career as well. Like, if we could just write out all the things that a mother does every day, every week, every month, like, it's a dramatic expansion of skill sets that can be cross-applied into numerous areas. Anyway, that is just like a brief little blah blah on all of that. But you tell me, like, what has changed within you since becoming a mum?
Well, it's in answer to that, and to kind of pick up on something that you just said, the idea that you bring all those skills, on paper, I kind of got that. I'm like, all the kind of the things that go around of like, here's the job description of a mother, and it's, task manager and conflict resolver and blah, 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 which is so true and super cute and relatable. But the thing that really struck me, one of my mentors said to me just the other day, actually before I went to kind of do a really big thing and go overseas and do a bunch of auditions and kind of show up in a way that I hadn't for a little while, she said to me, that this is not, because I said, I've kind of like, I've done this work and that work, but I haven't seen these people or been in my career in this way. And she was like, that that's not been wasted time though, right? And I'm like, yeah, I've got all these skills. And she was like, no, it's not you had time away from this while you were doing this. It was like who you are has been completely reformed by this. And the thing that really struck me was that we were talking about my capacity in that time. And she's like, your capacity, and I'll link it back to kind of what I said about birth, is that I realized I can hold the power of a volcano, the power of nature. If I can hold that, then I can hold this. I'm going into this really massive audition that means so much to me, and I can feel the excitement and the nerves and the adrenaline. And I could say to myself, you can hold this. You can hold this. You've held volcanoes in the palm of your hand, rushing through your body. You are the ocean. Actually, I'd love to speak about that, because it was like really within my birth. I remember there was a metaphor that people talked about, the waves and the contractions, and that felt overwhelming for me. I was like, waves are coming at me. And what I transformed that to for me was, I am the ocean. And that has stuck with me, and it's like, what
Yeah,
I
nice.
found is the how I expanded to encapsulate that has been the thing that when I've come back into my career in a different way, yeah, I haven't had time out. I've been becoming the fucking ocean, you know? Like, lol, hear me sing now, you know? Like,
hear me sing now with like 5 hours sleep, bitch.
oh my God, all the things that I thought I needed. I was like, I need to have this much sleep and only eat these things. And like, of course, those things still support me in my professional life. But oh my God, the things I thought I couldn't do. It's like, please.
I think this is the gift of actually working. I think this is the gift of the juggle of work and motherhood. And yeah, it's beautiful to take time off, you know, and totally give to your matrescence and give to motherhood. But man, it's actually, there's such a reciprocity and an enrichment flowing both ways between career and motherhood. There was for me. There might not be, I'm sure, like if you're in an office and it's really sterile and it's maybe extremely cerebral. But for me, like teaching yoga, you know, like who I was in my body was very, very different. And the capacity, the depth that I had, like what I hear from you from birth, of course, you can hold much deeper. I mean, I've been teaching private yoga for nearly 30 years. That's therapy, people.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
With people like 2 to 3 times a week, right? With families for that long. And it's like I can hold space, deep, deep space. And same with jewelering that came after that. And the enrichment is there. And a lot of it, like you say, is beautifully, it's not a checklist. It's in the felt sense.
Yeah.
In the lived experience, in the embodiment, in the subtle realms, but very real because they're very much felt. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's like, it's also, I think, you know, to your point about maybe that's not, and we can talk more about this in general, like maybe that's not the experience for everyone, but just in terms of career, it's like for me, what I do as a musician and performer, as primarily an opera singer and creative person on the stage, it has always been vocational for me. It's always been a calling. It's always been so much more than just a job. And that's why I feel they're so inextricably linked. Like I couldn't have had one experience without having the other. And I couldn't have put who I was as a creative person aside from who I am as a mother. You know, both are the most deeply creative acts I've ever
totally,
you know, embodied. But yeah, it's interesting. Before we recorded, we were talking about the idea of like maybe the transformation is not this for everyone. I'd love to kind of flesh that out a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, well, you were saying, you know, the biggest transformation and shift for you has been in identity. Is that what you would say?
Yeah. I think that's it. It's like, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so you use the word identity, and I would suggest, and we'll talk about, you know, the spectrum of experience because you were immersed in your soul mama circle, and of course, there's variations of this experience, and I think everybody has to absorb and integrate a new part of themselves through being a mother, but not everybody goes through the depths of radical transformation that maybe you and I are talking about. But I think we wanted to talk about it, obviously, because we're passionate about it and it's amazing. And if you're hearing this, you might hear parts of it yourself, or you might understand, or you might be more prepared for what might happen on the other side. Or I'm not sure. What was your experience in the Soul Mama Circle with the mamas?
Oh, I love my soul mamas. We're trying to arrange to see each other. It gets so much harder as people have second babies and you know, different schedules and stuff. But you know, we're really much still part of each other's lives. But there was such a spectrum of experience. I mean, people came from really different walks of life, different professions, different experiences, conceiving, pregnancy, all those kinds of things. I think I will say, actually, I'm about to talk about a similarity, but what struck me is that, we sort of were like-minded women coming into a space like that, where we each had the instinct that we needed to be part of a space that kind of prioritized, I guess, discussion about essentially matrescence, but discussion about what is the woman's experience in becoming a new mother, and not just kind of, a mother's circle where you talk about nappies or sleep or whatever, which is great too. But, we each had a sense that that's what we might need in that space. So whilst our transformations, or particularly our challenges, might have looked different, there are actually quite a few of us that had, feeding challenges, and, then other people had different experiences with sleep and than others, or people had different things that they were dealing with. Even amidst those differences, I think the core factor was that we were all kind of had a sense that this experience would change us, and that we would need woman-centered support around that.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting what you say about, this idea of like maybe people will hear this and hear bits of themselves, or none of themselves, or all of themselves. Again, to kind of refer to a conversation that I had with a mentor, I said, like, I don't know, like I just sometimes have this sense that I must have failed postpartum, or I just didn't plan enough, or I didn't have enough of a good enough meal train or something. Like, I could have just like, it's like my maiden wants to come back on board, and I'm like, if I just planned it better, I could have like, sat above the discomfort and the pain and the transformation. And, she actually said to me, like, look, I said, but have I failed? Is it just me that feels this? And she's like, I don't think it is just you that feels this. I think that everyone feels this transformation to an extent. Maybe people are more or less aware of it, or open to it, or don't have the vocabulary, or maybe that's not just, maybe, I don't know. It's kind of like we get the birth that we need, or and that's not to diminish anyone's pain, or, I had various painful experiences, as I've articulated along the way, and I wouldn't wish them on anyone. And yet I can look at that transformation and think, God, I'm glad it happened in that way. Of course it was meant to happen in that way, because I'm the person that I am now. And I guess psychology would talk about it as kind of like post-traumatic growth in a way.
Yes.
And I don't use that term lightly. I think there is a lot about the experience that is kind of traumatic to our sense of self and identity and relationship, and everything that we thought was the stable ground on which our identity is based. At least for me, it was annihilated, and again, I don't use that term lightly.
No, I think actually, as we talk about it, I'm like, no, everyone gets it. Everyone gets those cards dealt to them. That's why we make those topics in Soul Mama, like, birth stories, self-care, identity, relationship, sexuality, and visioning. So, I think you're right. We all do get dealt those cards, but I think a lot of people aren't talking about them as much as maybe you and I like to. But because this season is about taboos and truths, should we jump into like a slightly taboo topic? Like, can we talk a bit about like sensuality, sexuality, desire, and how to manage that in the midst of motherhood?
Yeah, you know what? It's really interesting. And certainly kind of at the time postpartum, like really immediately postpartum, we're always postpartum. But in the immediate period postpartum, you are exposed to through various things, whatever it's Soul Mother Circle, or it's, whatever, social media. This idea of like, sex might be different, or your relationship with your partner might be different, and all those things. Yes, absolutely. I think what is really interesting to me about this question is if we consider desire as in that really Esther Perel way of like, your desire is like, it connects you to life force and play and creativity and something that is sort of guess, deeper than like, how does it feel to connect with your partner after giving birth, which is like a whole nother amazing topic that's really important. But where I feel like I relate to that question, especially at, you know, having a daughter that's 2.5, is like, is, you know, after that 2 years mark, and it's so interesting that you mentioned that in the labyrinth and then coming out of the labyrinth is 2 years, because we felt it so strongly, myself and my partner, you know, this idea that it's like you start to see that like spark of life again. Not that there hasn't been immense joy in the last 2.5 years, but the spark of life that is like, how do I articulate it? I'm just starting to like put my finger on it again, but yeah, that really Esther.
Is it like that piece of self comes back? I think it's like a piece of self comes back in, because they are becoming less dependent, you know, because we have, as mammals, as humans, mammals, we have the longest dependency period, you know, of any mammal in the kingdom. And that it is about 2 years, you know, it's 2 years, that longest dependency.
On my end.
Okay. So that longest.
The longest,
Yeah, the longest dependency period of any mammal. And it, you know, it's about 2 years. By 2 years, you know, a child is walking, they can communicate their words, some sentences, and they're able to be left, you know, with other people, other carers. There's a strong shift around that 2-year mark for kids in their development and their brains and nervous systems as well. As for us, it is interesting. So yeah, a sense of self. And I would say that maybe desire only really awakens when we have that stable inner self, and we're not sharing so much of our energy field with our little child. I mean, they share our energy field for, I feel, forever. But that first couple of years, there's such a big enmeshment. And then slowly, you know, no, desire comes from the sense of self.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that. And it's also like a sense of not being in survival mode anymore.
Oh, yeah. You know, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like when you have those like basic needs met. And again, my framework for that, I don't know what it's like for anyone else, but my framework for that was, you know, giving birth at the tail end of a pandemic, and, you know, a lot of my community had been in London previously, and, you know, all of the kind of crazy rental stuff, like our rental went up by like 50% overnight. We moved in with family, like all of that stuff was like everything was just being upended. Career had already been upended by the pandemic. Like, you know, I don't know what my experience would have been like had that not been like the least hard part of my last 2 years has been the presence of my child. You know, like the least hard bit is, you know, people in the opera industry are like, what is it like having a baby, like being a parent and being an opera singer? And I'm like, that has been the least difficult part of the last 4 years, the last 2 years especially.
Yeah.
But at the heart of that is like a need to survive. And I feel like we've kind of emerged from that really intense survival period, and then comes on board enjoyment, play, desire, the ability to like have vision for my own life, which was something I was deeply tapped into before. And I just remember being like, I don't know what I want. Like, I don't know what my vision for the future is like, but my brain was just so tightly kind of honed in on what was in front of me and keeping my child alive, you know?
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it. So what did you feel were the impacts on relationship with your partner, if you want to go there?
Oh my God. I mean, this was another thing, and I'm sure he won't mind me, you know, framing it up in this way. We had no clue. It was the least expected part of, I was going to say the least expected challenge of our postpartum, but actually I think that was kind of probably equal with the feeding challenges that we faced. But I sort of knew that could be a thing. But we were like, we're both so kind of communicative and deeply connected and sort of, again, I use the term loosely, but like spiritual, like connected to a sense of their life, also desire or play or, willingness to grow and learn, that we were like, these challenges, like, they're not going to happen to us. Like, which was so naive. And I now say to anyone, just have a really good, like, couples counselor or therapist or something you can access at your public hospital or whatever it is. Just have a framework or a vocabulary around how do we show up in challenge and change. Because we couldn't have, as I said, we couldn't have predicted the challenges that would come, like the extreme feeding and latching and weight gain and, for like 6 months of really extreme, again, survival stuff like pain and all of those. We hadn't faced that challenge before, so we didn't know how we would show up. So I think to kind of like, you don't know what is going to face you, but like to have a vocabulary around that. But again, as I'm saying it, I'm like, maybe that is just my maiden trying to be like, I could have controlled it better.
So. No, I mean, people have written books about that, and Ellie Taylor's got her book Becoming Us, and it is like a dialogue for couples to have prior to birthing. And I think, when I see business partners coming together, right? Like Leroy, my son, is about to launch his first company, which is very exciting. Go, Leroy. He's got like 4 investors. It's big. Like
that's
off he goes at 22, like more of an entrepreneur than I am. I said to him, you really need to, and his dad is one of those investors. You need to have the conversation now. And someone said that to me, and I didn't really listen. You got to have the conversation now about how are we going to deal with it? How are we going to get through it when it turns to shit and it doesn't work out as we're hoping? So a post-mortem, like a pre-mortem, is a good idea. And now for a quick break. At She Births, we believe that pregnancy, birth, and matrescence, the sacred postpartum, is an awesome rite of passage. Our free holistic pregnancy guide offers you 6 months of weekly support. Drop straight into your inbox or within our free She Births app, you can get content that will nourish your body, mind, and soul. You can enjoy prenatal yoga videos, great recipes, birth affirmations, course discounts, and more. From me and my team, the creator of the world's only scientifically verified antenatal classes, it is our gift to you. Sign up today and receive the free holistic pregnancy guide at shebirths.com/PG. That's shebirths.com/PG. But it's, I don't know how I suppose you have to like have some of those like, what could you have done different? I mean, it's helpful for people to hear this. What conversation could you have had with your partner to preempt or prepare better for the challenges?
It's so funny because I would read and we would talk about these things and what are discussing this and what we were doing, blah, blah, blah. But it almost feels like, and I haven't realized it till this moment, and there's kind of a sense of compassion and like love that comes on board for me in this, towards myself as much as anything. But it would be like saying to not even a child and an adult, but it would be like saying to one person and then another person, like, you must do this. And it's like, I hadn't even met the woman that I would become. And he hadn't even, it was interesting. I was talking to him about, the fact that we would be speaking and we were talking about matrescence, and he said, yeah, but surely there's patrescence as well.
There is a patrescence, of course.
Yeah,
Just like there's menopause and andropause. Yeah.
Fascinating. And I think it is interesting because, maybe men are done a disservice or,
they do
whoever is the significant other in the partnership. Yeah, I think so because, and there's kind of little we get glimpses of it. Or I heard this amazing interview about male postnatal depression on the Imperfects the other day, and that was really vulnerable and beautiful and emotional. It's like, and he was talking about the idea you hadn't even conceived of the fact that that could be possible.
Yeah.
And I think it's similar in this scenario, is that like, you know, I said this to a friend the other day, it's like, you know, have a great therapist that you really trust, have the vocabulary, even if you're laughing at the conversation, like, really, like, are we going to need this? Like, just have it in case. Just have the conversation of like, what do we do? Like, because the real surprises to us were like, you know, there were things in place in our lives that really regulated our nervous systems, and we were really they were really important to us. And whether it be kind of exercise or meditation, getting to the gym, time alone, time in nature, you know, whatever those kind of poignant things were. For me, it's like also having a tidy space. Like, and that's always something
all the things that we write as our lists in the very beginning in class 1, in module 1 of the She Births course. Write your list of all the ways that you go into relaxation response, the ways you do it alone, the ways you do it together, because you're going to need to tag team with each other. But I think you're adding more onto this. But you're right. Those are the things.
It's the stuff I didn't even notice. Like my partner and I are both really sort of tidy, organized people. And it goes beyond just like wanting to have a clean, like it really for us is energetic, psychological, and, you know, and I just taken that for granted because we're both tidy people. We'd sort of thought like, hey, it will be important to us to kind of be organized. But then if people come into our space to help us, and I would say, hey, the most amazing thing you could do is just to clear that kitchen. And they'd say like, no, that's not. And I was like, no, you don't understand. This is important to me. Or I would say like, they would say, go sleep. And I'd be like, I will sleep. I just really, all I want to do is like wash that dish or make a cup of tea. That means more to my innate sense of self and volition and self kind of agency in the world that I can do that. And that was hard because people around me didn't necessarily hold those values or like believe me. Yeah. And I'd gone from this birth experience where I was like, I'm fucking holding the power of the universe in my body. And then I was like, why are you not listening to me? I need the mug to be clean. Like, and they were like, pipe down, you're being a little dramatic, go and have a sleep. And I was like, fucking clean the dishes. Like, and that might sound ridiculous to someone else who is like, that doesn't mean a thing to me. And I will partner that with, I wish I'd had more of an ability to let go of sleep structure. Like, I wish I'd just become nocturnal. Like, just, you know, it's like people say, oh, don't do things when you're like sleep when your baby sleeps. I'm so up for that, but I didn't have a sleeping baby. Like, my baby wasn't someone who went to sleep for an hour to like, it was a struggle. So it wasn't possible that like, I'll just sleep when my baby sleeps. So in retrospect, but again, hindsight's 2020, but in retrospect, it's like, I will also frame that up with, for anyone who's going through it, you know, my milk didn't come in. I was pumping for months as well as feeding, as waking up every hour to pump, sterilize, breastfeed, you know, all of the shit. So within that, I hold a sense of compassion for myself that it wasn't necessarily possible to do these things. However, had I sort of known, like, I wish I'd lined up people to like, you do the shit while I'm asleep, you know, and taken sleep. Like, I thought it would make me feel like shit to sleep at midday or something. And I'm like, I wish I'd done that more. But this is a sort of long-winded answer to like, what would you say to people? I mean, in terms of the relationship thing, but it is a little bit how you divvy that stuff up. But, you know, just setting up those frameworks. And again, I joked about like not having a meal train, but it's like, I didn't like really radically ask for help before. Yeah. And it wasn't even help. Like, it was like, it's, you know, the example I use of saying to people, this is really important to me. I don't care what's important to you right now. This is important to me. And I
Did you know that those things, I suppose that's it. Like, you know, they're important before, but you don't realize that you're going to have to explicitly communicate that to another person. Yeah. And that's where like a postpartum plan and communicating to your village. So, in the book, I'm writing about fourth trimester as how you have to create a village. It's far beyond a meal train. If you want to go through the postpartum period in the healthiest, most gentle way, you really need people coming in, and you need people coming in that are ego-free. Or you need to understand that those in-laws, like, their thing is just, banana bread, and that's all they're ever going to bring, and they're going to leave their dishes on the coffee table.
Totally. Yeah, and it's funny. It's like, and I will say I had some really beautiful support from family members and friends who kind of called when we needed. And it's that maiden mother thing again. It is really hard to advocate for yourself. And I was fully prepared to advocate for myself in the birthing space.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that I would need to advocate for myself in the postpartum space. It's like things like I would say, oh, well, I don't want to ask that person to bring a meal and just leave it at the door. Because also it was still the pandemic, and we didn't want a bucket load of visitors. So we had these kind of conflicting needs of we want solitude. We want to feel like we're in this bubble. We also are less capable of cooking than we thought we would be, or whatever it was. So it felt really hard to say, actually, what I need is you to drop things at the door, because it was we can't ask that person to drive for an hour and not meet the baby. That feels unreasonable. Whereas 2.5 years into my motherhood journey, I'm much more adept at having unreasonable conversations. Unreasonable in inverted commas.
Look, and that's a life practice.
It is.
And that's one of the sections I write about in the book. Oh my God, can you tell I'm deep into the editing of my book?
Love it.
Is finding your voice.
Yeah.
But it's a really, really beautiful point that you're making, like how we can find our voice at certain points in the labour, but postpartum as well. And that's really not a requirement that we would have needed a few hundred years ago. You wouldn't have needed it, because you'd be in a village and you'd have all your sisters and your aunts and your mum and your grandma all looking after you anyway. So it's a modern way for us now to move into empowerment. You could say it's where feminism and postpartum intersect.
I love that. And it's also like I didn't expect in kind of along that idea of finding your voice, I didn't expect the challenges that I expected it to be challenging, but I couldn't have. No one can predict what challenges will kind of come up in that period, or indeed in pregnancy or birth. But the particular challenges, as I said, that we had with feeding that were really extreme and really sudden and a real kind of health crisis. What I didn't expect was that for my partner and I, we were suddenly in this position where we both were like, we need to keep this baby alive. And we almost were kind of in opposing positions, with keeping the baby alive at the center of it. And without going kind of into too much depth, because it's not necessarily relevant to everyone hearing it, but, the idea of I really wanted to breastfeed. My partner super wanted to support me in that, but was also from the outside seeing, okay, what are these realities? What are we doing here? So it kind of felt like having a voice was very nuanced in that situation, because it wasn't as simple as, I feel like I'm going to die, I need to stop pumping now. It was extremely nuanced, and there were kind of a bunch of competing needs in that moment, all equally important. I guess the priority was keeping our child alive and surviving, so it, and that also relates to, I think, the idea of postpartum in general is the hugest, the most profound, that's not even a word, the most profound thing that I felt the loss of was the ability to prioritize what I needed, because it just wasn't possible in so many moments. I needed sleep. It wasn't always possible. I needed whatever, whereas I'd come from being this maiden who was like, I have endless time and resources to prioritize my needs.
Yeah.
And I don't think one realizes that is the that's what we're living. Like, it always feels like, oh, I'm a maiden, there's not enough time, I'm so busy, but which is true. I'm not undermining that at all, but that it's a different thing when you come into this. Like, I remember thinking, I will never trim my nails again. All I wanted to do was trim my nails. And like, every time now I trim my nails, I'm like, this is a life of luxury.
I know, plucking eyebrows. I remember feeling like, oh, that's amazing. That's so good. That's amazing, flossing teeth, hilarious.
Oh, my God.
So it must have impacted your career, obviously. Like, how has it changed your ambitions? Did you bounce back? Which I think is a funny term to use for the body, but also like bouncing back into career, or, I mean, COVID aside, like, how has being a mother shifted that?
Yeah, that's such a rich space for me. As I mentioned, the least hard bit of the last 4 years was actually having my baby.
Yeah.
And that's, it's been immensely challenging. I'm not underselling that at all. As I said, she's not really a sleeper. Like, she's hugely spirited. She's fucking incredible. I'm madly in love with her. But, that hasn't been easy. But I think the career bit has been the hardest. Again, in the framework of kind of like those years of COVID and moving back from London and having all this work kind of disappear. But I think it's really interesting, again, having this profession that is vocational. I can't just return to doing the task. Who I am, my entire body, my spirit is involved in what I do. And I'm sure there are many professions that are like that. So it was a lot to navigate. I spent many, many months navigating, what does it feel like to sing in this body? And how do I bring in my tools and kind of all the technical aspects of what I do to support me in this? But it really wasn't until recently that I felt like I'm really back inside myself again. And I use that term loosely because I think back into anything, or to bounce back into anything, it's a fallacy. Like, there is no going backwards. There is, and I think I was so attached to the idea of getting back to something, especially again because of COVID. I was like, I need to get back overseas. I need to get back to my career. I need to get back to where I was. And it wasn't until I let go of the idea of getting back anywhere that I could really embody all of the things that I now am and I am now becoming. Yeah. And there's more of ahead of me than there was behind me.
Yeah, beautiful. And then how do you navigate that tension between being, a great mom or good enough mom with career, with your fulfillment in your career and that juggle? Because both you and your partner are self-employed, right?
He used to be an actor. That's how we met. But he now has a regular job, but it's interesting because he works like really early mornings. So it's not particularly, neither of us are particularly like run-of-the-mill 9 to 5 kind of jobs. In terms of how we navigate that, or I guess how I navigate that, again, it's like I could read things and, people talk about like the juggle or the mum guilt or being a working mum or whatever. It's like, for me, it has become like a deeper understanding of those things, which is not, and I'm sure for so many people it is the logistics, but for me it isn't always the logistics of like, how do I, whatever, how do we divvy up the household responsibilities, or how do I, navigate feeling guilty if I'm at work or whatever. It's less that, and it's more, what it was for me for a long time was feeling like when I'd been trying to rebuild my career, was feeling like I was somehow doing my family a disservice. Like I was, it wasn't mum guilt about like, oh no, my kid's at daycare or, my mind's in something else. It wasn't mum guilt in that sense. It was like really feeling like I had this calling and I was kind of, being called back into making that work and making that work. And having this, as I said, I kind of got disconnected from my vision for myself and my life. And then as that was coming back on board, it didn't really come back fully on board until recently, but I was following these little glimmers of light that really only I could see. And I was saying to my family, like, I just sense I need to go this way. I think I need to prioritize this. And the juggle for me was then in going, well, how do I make that work with, I need to contribute a certain amount of money to the family, and I need to, there is practicality that I need to work. And at that time, like, I'm really lucky that before that I was full-time an opera singer, and now I am full-time an opera singer again. But in that in-between time, that real intense matrescence period, I was trying to figure out, well, how do I follow these little glimmers of light and say to the people around me, like, no, I really believe that there's something on the other side of this, or there's light at the end of the tunnel, or however you want to, whatever metaphor you want to use. That was the hardest bit, because I constantly felt like, even though I had that obviously tiny glimmer of hope inside me, I constantly felt like, am I doing the right thing? Is this madness? Should I be being responsible? Like, am I being irresponsible to my family by pursuing this thing that has always been at the heart of me, that I'm really passionate about, that I feel like there's more for me there? And, really recently my partner was really moving. He sat me down while we were in London recently and said to me, I just want to thank you for holding this vision for our family, for this vision that our lives can be something different and creative, and connects to the desire thing again, desire and play. And, he said, you've held that and you've brought us to this place. And it was really moving to hear that, because it was a really constant source of grief and struggle for me to walk that path with kind of hope when there wasn't anything that was guaranteed.
Yeah. Beautiful. I mean, takes courage, each step. You can find courage on each step, and there's a little bit more conviction. And then, I mean, surrendering to spirit all the time. That's what I'm doing all the time. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And because I want to live, a truly creative life all the time. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. Okay, well, spirit is saying, no, maybe it's this now. And I'm spirit too, but like, I'll talk to the tree, actually, as she births. I've got a she oak tree in my garden and have a little chat with her. And, sometimes when I meditate, I just ask for an image about where I'm going and what's next. And it's very beautiful. But
I love that.
It's playful, it's desireful, and it's charming, as we say in the Vedic kind of world, following charm, trusting that little subtle feeling and sense. But also I can get that that's big.
Yeah, like it didn't feel charming. Like I felt like I was doing exactly that. But what I will say to anyone, in case anyone is kind of walking through that wilderness or that darkness, is like, it didn't feel charming. Like I was on my knees. Like I really was, birth, put me on my knees, and then I just stayed there. Like I was like, and not in the sexy way. Like I was just like, please, I need, again, I don't have a religious belief, but I did the closest kind of, I guess, iteration of praying. Like I just would be like in the shower, or my equivalent of the she oak, like I'd be in the sea and I'd just be like, please, I just need you to help me. I need you to tell me, like, where am I going? Like, and it wasn't like, I need to know what it's going to look like. It was like, just give me an idea. Or it was like, again, the practicalities of like, I need to make some money, or like, I just need this audition to work, or whatever it is. And it didn't feel pretty. It felt like pain, and I didn't realize how much pain I was in until the weight lifted off my shoulders.
Totally. Well, that's life. Maiden to mother to maga. You're learning to just manage the paradoxes and hold all that uncertainty and just flow with it all, come into the she flows. That's the next course I reckon I'm going to run. But it's all just a step to that flow. But there's lots of great science on the spiritual brain and how it's really, no one manifests really. We're not manifesting, we're allowing. We feel desire, we have longing, we might receive vision, you might get a sense of a feeling, you might sort of interact with that, but you're always in communication with nature, with life, with existence. And that is a really important way of living and feeling connection to the world and to the universe. It's not up to you. You're a part of nature. So anyway, that'll have to be another podcast, darling. What else do we want to say? What else do you want to share about matrescence that feels important to give to the mums, the partners, the birth workers out there, people who are listening in?
Oh, what feels important?
Or I can ask you this. That's maybe if you could describe your new identity in 3 words, what would they be?
Okay.
The old one, maybe do the old one before birth, before motherhood. The old one, like, let's give some love to her.
I loved her. I loved her so much. She was sparky and determined, and she was strong as well. She was really strong. Because I think I've carried her through.
And determined and strong.
Yeah, and I think we carry through all these parts. Like, she lives within me, just like my inner child lives within me, and she lives within me. I'm really proud of her. And then I think this me that I'm getting to know now is, I don't know what the word is for, like, she's nature. Like, she's nature. And not just like the flowers and the breeze, but like the volcanoes and the lightning. She's nature. And she's easeful. There's ease for her. And she's fierce.
I love that. I love that. Wow. Nature, easeful and fierce. Yeah, that's really beautiful. I love that. 3 words to describe birth.
Oh, I mean, they've got to be like volcano, lioness, and lightning. They just have to be. They were, I could use so many other words, but
volcano,
transformational of this
lioness. No, volcano, lioness, and lightning. Beautiful.
They were just my mantra.
What do you think is the biggest truth about matrescence that we can share? What is the truth?
The first thing that comes to mind is just that it's real. Like, I think so often we gaslight ourselves as women, or we're gaslit, and I certainly had that experience, from the medical profession, from the alternate medicine community, like everything around, as I mentioned, endometriosis, and, even kind of in my postpartum experience, just saying like, no, it's really important to me that this thing is clean. And it's like, there was a lot of self-questioning, and I'm like, why is that important to me? And is that important to me? It's like, it's real. It's real. Everything you're feeling, it's real. You exist. You are true. Yeah.
I get that.
It's what it is. It's real. What you're feeling is real. And also that it's a season. Like, it took me a few, I reckon, months to realize that everything in motherhood was a season. I was like, oh, this is just a season. Yeah. This moment is a season. This week is a season. This, thing with sleep is a season. But it's like, in a greater sense, there were rhythms and seasons. And
phases and stages. Yeah. Beautiful. And what do you feel is taboo about, I mean, God, we've kind of covered a lot of taboos, but what is taboo about matrescence that we need to highlight here today?
Again, the first thing that comes to me is this idea that it's often not convenient for society, for birthing people to have this experience. Like, it's not convenient that we might be broken apart. It's not convenient that we might be angry. It's not convenient that we might be vulnerable. And
or we might want to change our career, or we might want the house clean.
You know, that is not it is. I do not think it is convenient for the world often to have fierce, strong women who are advocates for themselves and for their children. And I think we need to step into that power more. You know, there's so much going on in the world. And I think we as women are in this unique position to, there's just like there's a clear seeing that happens after, as part of matrescence. And we feel things more deeply. We see things more clearly.
We'll just leave it with that.
Grow into this ability to...
Beautiful. I think I got frozen then, but what were you saying? Clear seeing. I agree. There's a clear seeing. There is a clear seeing. And we grow
into the ability to become fiercer and fiercer advocates for the things that we think are important. And I'd like to see more of that in the world. I think that's important.
I'd like to see more of us having more bloody time to do that in the world, you know. I think that is the thing. I think we are so fierce and powerful, but so many women don't get to write that letter back to the hospital, making them responsible, aware of how they breached boundaries or caused harm, because we're so bloody busy, you know. And that's how the system works in its sort of domination, in its power over us, is by keeping us really busy, paying the rent, paying the mortgage, running around. It stops us from being actually able to speak up and advocate or create. To a certain extent, we have to magically design that life.
Well, and I think it's also that it more than that maybe is that it keeps us afraid. You know, it keeps us afraid of what will happen if we do that or say that. And I think the process for me of growing into motherhood has been a process of becoming less afraid, you know.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. The process of becoming less afraid. Amen to that. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and for sharing your inspiring, powerful experience. Thanks, Darlin. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, my friend. See you soon.
I'm Nadine Richardson, and you've been listening to the She Births podcast. If you've enjoyed today, please help us keep this podcast going by subscribing, reviewing, and sharing with a friend. Don't forget to check out our catalogue of previous pods and, of course, our unique programs and services. You can find me and my team at shebirths.com, our community of families and birth workers on Instagram and Facebook. She Births is 2 words and plural. Remember, when it comes to having a beautiful birth and beginning motherhood, your She Births education is your empowerment.